Welcome to Awake to Oneness Radio. I am Caroline Cheng, your host. The mission of Awake to Oneness Radio is to inspire the world to awaken to the universal truth of oneness. Science is now teaching us that all life is energy. Everything is energy. And that energy is interconnected and interdependent. In essence, we are all one. We're all connected, literally. So what you do to another person, you're literally doing to another aspect of yourself. And when mankind awakens to the universal truth of oneness, there will be peace on earth. Also, I like to add that science is now just catching up. It's really not new science. This science is over 100 years old. But spirituality and ancient wisdom has been teaching the truth of oneness for eons. So today's show topic is Spirit Guides Magazine with Arizona Belle. Welcome, Arizona.
Thank you, Carolyn, for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Thank you for being my guest. I had the honor and the pleasure of meeting Arizona in person twice. In Arizona, of all places.
I have my own hashtag. It's Arizona in Arizona. Wow.
Yeah, that's so cool. But now you're in Spain.
Now I'm in Spain. Yeah. You can see my lighting is a little bit dark because it's about 5 o'clock here. So I'm grateful to you for working with my time change. But yes, I am in Spain now.
Yes, it must be beautiful there. It's actually cold and snowy here in the Poconos today.
Oh, well, I won't tell you that it's 65 degrees and sunny here.
Okay. Well, the sun's about to set there now.
That's true.
But thank you. Yes. And I had the pleasure of meeting you at the Helping Parents Heal conference this past April in Arizona, and also at the Afterlife symposium in September, where you were, I think at both conferences you were a speaker. Yeah.
You know, I wasn't at Helping Parents Heal. I have spoken at the AREI symposium 2 years in a row, but I was at Helping Parents Heal pretty much just on a press pass to help spread the message. So I covered the event as a journalist for Spirit Guides Magazine. So it was, but what a lovely event. Both of them. The Helping Parents Heal was, that's my heart. So
yeah, it was so amazing. I got involved with Helping Parents Heal because I do have a son on the other side. And one of my guests, Suzanne Eastman, who was speaking at Helping Parents Heal conference, she told me about how Helping Parents Heal is doing such amazing work with helping parents. And so, to overcome grief, basically. And so the grief of, I think the hardest, I know your mom is on the other side and my son is on the other side, but I think that we think that, okay, parents are gonna go ahead of us. It's still hard. Not saying, not diminishing that. But for a child, that's, I think that's the hardest transition that most people have to go through, or not have to go through, that can go through. So, but we're kind of jumping ahead. I've met you. I know a little bit about your work, and you're doing amazing work. Could you please introduce yourself to our listeners, share your journey and how you got to be doing your amazing podcast and magazine?
How much time do I have? No, I'm just kidding.
Hey, I'm a producer, remember? You have all the time you want.
Just saying, it was a long journey. Just a little bit, we were talking before we started. Before my mom passed away, it'll be 4 years in March 29th. And before that, I had zero experience with loss, death, in the physical sense. So, we can lose other things and people in our lives. But with death, I had no experience with loss or death. I was on a spiritual path. I had my feet firmly on a spiritual path, but it was kind of that the commitment wasn't there. Like there was nothing had shaken my life up so much that I find that when your life gets shaken up to the point where you have to commit to the spiritual path, that's when you do, and not a second sooner. So I was dabbling, right? And I was still keeping my ego activities over here on the side. That's kind of where I was at. And, but I wasn't clueless either. But when my mom died, she was my absolute best friend. And, you know, we do expect our parents to go before us, but I was 30. It still felt too soon for me. Right. And I think you really don't grow up until the day you lose your mom. And it was a big wake up call for me. It was the greatest shake up of my life. And so it really was a catalyst for me. And it was not an instant good catalyst. I was in grief really hardcore. And the loss of my mom was kind of the first domino to go down in a series. And this happens a lot with grief, of things going down, getting out, being lost in my life. So loss of a romantic relationship, loss of a child attached to that relationship, loss of money, loss of job, loss of purpose, things like that. So it was a bad time for me. It was a really dark time. And I did get to my ultimate rock bottom, and I got to my ultimate just wake up call. And I was suicidal, and which was not a normal thing for me. So it was a really big wake up call. And I woke up, you know, it was, you have the choice. It's, you know, sink or swim.
Yes.
Transformation or ruin. Right. And at the very last minute, it was like, okay, I'm going to choose alchemy. My mom would want me to. And so that's what I did. And again, as we were talking, we have all of these ideas before that really big shakeup moment. And, you know, I always wanted to start my own business around spiritual things, but it was like, oh, I'm not good enough. And how am I going to make money? I've got this great corporate job, you know, all those tapes that we run in our heads, those limits that we put on ourselves. And so it wasn't until my mom died that I said, hey, this idea that I've had for 5 years that spirit won't stop saying in my head, which was Spirit Guides magazine, new maps for old soul. That's the tagline. Like, it would not leave, you know, some ideas come and go. That one was like, this is yours, take it. So about a year after my mom died, I just said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I did it full force. And I had just, because I know you do a lot of afterlife talk and grief talk. I did not plan that. I really, truly didn't. My history as a writer. And I thought I'd be like a writer for love and like all these nice things. And, you know, on the flip side, every grief story is a love story. So here I am now writing about grief, talking about grief and the afterlife. And I don't know if you want me to stop, but that was a whole, that was a whole thing that was very unexpected for me. I went to Suzanne Wilson, which I'm sure a lot of your listeners know. I went to a reading because a friend of mine, sorry if you can hear my dog snoring right next to me.
I didn't hear your dog, but that's okay. Dog is welcome.
I can. He's just snoozing over here. I'm sorry. But I had a friend who recommended Suzanne to me and said, hey, you know, if you want to connect with your mom. So I waited the year and connected with Suzanne, and just through a series of events, she invited me and really took me under her wing, and basically told me that she got a message that I was going to be, you know, an afterlife researcher and a grief researcher. And at the time I was like, what? But I had no idea, you know, I really didn't. So yeah, that happened. And now I really understand how that happened and why that happened. And I understand that my mom is on the other side as a very active part in this, and is still my best friend, and is still my mom, and is helping me. We're doing work together. She's just in a different realm. And that's really cool. That's really powerful stuff, right? So
well, the reason I am smiling and laughing, it's so, what you're saying is so similar to what I've experienced. I mean, Suzanne Wilson, both Suzannes, Suzanne Eastman and Suzanne Wilson. I met Suzanne Eastman first, but Suzanne Wilson has been a guest on the show. And it's very interesting. She's the one. That's how she invited me to moderate a panel at the Afterlife Symposium. So that's how I got to the Afterlife Symposium. But the thing is, the way she gave you prophecy of what you're supposed to do,
Mhm.
you did the same thing to me on the show.
Oh, that's great.
That's
Yeah,
so
I
amazing.
was not expecting it. Like, I went to get a reading from my mom. I'm just over here writing away. Like, at the time I was working on writing books about my mom, and like, I just had no clue.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, and then she invited me to be on a panel for millennial spirituality at the time. This was 2 years ago, because I have started Spirit Guides magazine, which is for everybody, but we did kind of step in to fill a void, a spiritual, because people are my age, millennials, they want this stuff, but they're not necessarily connecting to the ways that it's coming out and being packaged. So
Yes.
I saw that as something that we could, kind of come in. And so Suzanne, invited me on for that. And I was like, well, I'm not a medium, and I'm not this, that, and other thing. She's like, honey, you're going to be a big afterlife research. And I was like, what? So thank you, Suzanne Wilson, right? Yeah.
Yes, it's so cool. Listen, like you said, I've had several mediums on my show. She was a guest on my show. It was last March or April. And she just gave me and I wasn't expecting it, because I never asked for readings on, my show, but she just kind of said, I see this in spirit for you. And I'm like, okay. So I felt like, yeah, all right. So, and it was
so cool.
And I knew when my son had transitioned, like I told you before we started recording, that I've been on the spiritual journey, actually, honestly, I would say since my teens. And I'm much older than you. I'm probably your mom's age. My birthday is coming up in 2 days. I'll be 57.
Happy birthday. Oh, girl, you look good.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much. I get that a lot because I have a daughter that's 38. So you're probably younger than my daughter. And
just a little.
Well, when I tell people I have a daughter 38, they tell me you can't, because you don't look 38. So I love that. But yeah, I think because I meet in this field, talking and meeting so many people that are grounded in spirituality keeps you young. So you won't.
True.
You look like that in your 50s. So, but now I lost track where I was going. Oh, but Suzanne Eastman. I knew when my son transitioned, and he transitioned July 1st, 2014. And I knew when he transitioned that I wanted to have a reading, because like I said, I've been on this spiritual path for a while, but I didn't want to go seeking a medium. I said, I'm going to let that, whatever medium that I'm supposed to have the reading with, I'm going to let them come to me. And so I started, like I said, I was inspired 6 months after my son's transition to launch the podcast. And about a year or a few months after that, maybe 6 or 8 months after that, someone told me about Suzanne and said, you should have her on your show. So Suzanne Eastman. So I invited her on my show. After doing a show with her, I said, she's the one. Now, here's the cool thing. Now, this will relate to all the work we watched or talked about at the symposium, the EVP. In that reading with Suzanne, my first reading, she gifted me a reading on my son's birthday, 2016. And in that reading, we were doing it via Zoom. My son literally was trying to talk through the computer. We have his voice on tape.
Chills.
Yes. We have my dog, Coco, who transitioned in the fall of 2007. He was holding Coco, and you could clearly hear Coco's bark on the tape. On tape. I had never even heard of EVP. We weren't trying to do EVP. But in that reading, we got my son's voice and my dog's bark. It was so
good. Oh my God, if you've never heard EVP and then you hear that, I can't, that would be mind-blowing. It's mind-blowing anyway.
I had never even heard of EVP. And the other cool thing about this, Suzanne has done hundreds and hundreds of readings. This is the first time that's ever happened in a reading with her. So it was, so cool, so cool. But
I love her too. I've not met her personally, but I've seen her channel in person, and I've heard so many stories of people who have worked with her directly. And yeah, she's just so great. Big fan.
She's amazing. Both Suzannes are amazing. And I love when they get together and do a workshop together. They're so cool. Yes. So now let's go back to your story.
Sure. Yeah. So from that kind of catalyst point there, where it was kind of sink or swim, and that transformation point, I did create Spirit Guides magazine, and still, again, it was very on intuition. I didn't have like this clear path carved out or a business plan or anything. But I found that when you take the steps of your soul, that things tend to work out. And so they worked out really well. And tomorrow it'll be 2 years since we launched Spirit Guides magazine, and then a year ago
anniversary.
Thank you. And
a year birthday.
Yeah, lots of celebrations.
Yeah.
And then a year ago we launched Spirit Guides Radio, which is our podcast, and who knows what's next, but I've been speaking at some of the events, and I have a couple more lined up this year that I'll be speaking at, some of the Afterlife stuff. And I'm just super stoked for it all, and I'm ready to do the work, whatever it might be. So that's where I'm at right now. Yeah.
What you said is so important about taking that first step. And what resonates with me and what seems to be happening with me is, if I don't take that first step, I don't see the second step. Mm-hmm. See, we as humans, we want to know, like you said, a business plan. We want to know, we want to know from beginning to end what's going to happen before we take that step. And Spirit's like, no, I'm not going to show you the second step until you take the first step. So you have to take the first step in faith. Like you said, yes. So, and that's what's really kind of difficult for humans, is our human self. And when I say that, because we're not separate. We are spiritual beings, just having a temporary human experience. And when we understand that, and our higher self and our spirit guides, I love that. Our spirit guides know best. And we have to trust in that. And like you said, it kept, for 5 years, you kept getting the title Spirit Guide. And the title Awake to Oneness Radio just came to me from Spirit. And I said, I wanted the title of my podcast to tell everybody what's it all about. To me, we are all one, and it's so important that we understand who we really are. Because when we understand who we are, we can follow our spirit guides and not be fearful about it.
Yeah, you're so right. When we realize we're all one and we're in this together, and like you said in the beginning, if you hurt someone, you're hurting an aspect of yourself. When we realize that, we can really kind of take away all the BS, the stuff that doesn't matter and that is harmful, and really zero in on our purposes. And, I like the term lately, faith it till you make it. Not fake it, faith it. Because that's what it is. And that is, I think, I like that too. And that's exactly what happened with me. And it still happens to this day. And I really like to encourage people towards that route, because it's like, I have manifested and more in my life, and all of the good things that people might perceive going on in my life, right? I've manifested that by having faith that, and not faith that I know what the end result's going to look like, not faith that I know what 2 steps from now even looks like. Faith in that the Spirit does, the universe does. And I really truly believe that, like you said, that they won't show you the second step till you take, because when you take that first step, what you're doing is showing that you have faith and that you trust in that higher intelligence. Exactly. And when you trust in that higher intelligence, it gives you more. Exactly. Not a minute sooner. And that's what I have found. And it really did take me going through that grieving process to understand that and to really surrender. That's what happened on that transformational moment for me, that pivotal moment. It wasn't like, okay, yeah, I'm gonna transformation and I know exactly how I'm gonna do that. No, it was, I surrender to you. If you want me to stay alive, if you want me to, whoever you are, I wasn't a God person, and I'm still not necessarily, but it's like, if you want me to be here and I have a purpose, then show me. I surrender to you. Oh my gosh. Next day, things started happening.
Yes, that's exactly how it happens. Because, okay, you meant two other things you mentioned that I so identify with. You mentioned after your mom's transition, you were suicidal. Now, I actually, my journey is a little bit unique in the sense that I went through my son's transition twice. I mean, he didn't pass twice, but in 2011, December of 2011, doctors said he wasn't going to live. And when we were in a hospital, he had been on life support for 5 weeks. Doctors were asking me, they take you out of the room because they know the patient can hear what's going on, even though so they take you towards another room. Doctors asked if they take him off life support. I said, nope. But I knew in my mind what I was going to do. It's like, I am not going through this. I know I'm spirit. I know life's eternal. I know this is a dream of my own creation. And I'm like, I'm ending the dream right now. I went up in the hospital. I went up to another floor in a private waiting room and took a bottle of over-the-counter sleeping pills. I wrote a suicide note. My son is going to bury me. I'm not going to bury my son. I'm out of here, basically. I mean, I still have the note somewhere, but I wasn't going to go through it. I wasn't, but it was Christmas time. It was December of 2011. The hospital was on 34th Street. I experienced a miracle on 34th Street. That's my favorite Christmas movie. That my son, a week after that, my son took himself off life support, and his vital signs were perfect. It was a true medical miracle. He pulled out the ventilator and he pulled out the feeding tube, and his vital signs were perfect. And the doctor said it was like he wasn't even sick. So he pulled himself off of life support. I survived a suicide attempt, and we both went home the day before New Year's Eve that year. So wow. I promised God, I made a promise to God after that. I said, you know what? At that time, I just wanted to bring my son home. And God granted that wish. And so I made a promise to God. I said, I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I don't know what's going to happen after this. But I promise you, I'll never stop thanking you for this miracle. So 2.5 years later, when he goes back into the hospital, ambulance is taking him to the hospital, I'm still thanking God for that miracle that happened. I said, I don't know, God, what's going to happen this time. I don't know if I'm going to be able to bring him home this time. I hope so, but I don't know. But I'm not going to forget the miracle that was granted to me. So that tells me I tried not to be here, I'm here. I'm supposed to be here. I'm here for a reason. So because I'm here for a reason, I'm gonna live my life for that reason. Mm-hmm. So, and the other thing you said that identifies with me, you said your mom is with you, and you know she's still working with you now. In that first reading I've had with Suzanne Eastman, Kyle said, "Mom, I'm your co-host." So he's very proud of what I'm doing. And he said, "Mom, I'm your co-host. I'm with you every time you do a show."
Yeah. So my mom said she's my silent business partner.
Okay.
That came through.
Okay.
So yeah, and and I don't know if that's how it works all the time, but yes. For me, that's wonderful, and she's there doing the grief work too, and the afterlife work, and
yes.
And how cool is that? And that your son is as well. Like, it's really. I feel that we're able to accomplish so much more with her on the other side. Yeah. And I've seen that. I've seen my life speed up, like my work here speed up. And I know that it's not just me, and so it's when you can kind of get your head around this and see it from this level,
Yes.
and grief and loss, and when you can see it from this kind of spiritual level, which I think the afterlife research really helps us see more clearly,
Yeah.
the bigger purpose here. When you get to that point, and when you're in the trenches, you can't understand, but when you do get to that point, it's like I really understand why it all happened the way it did.
Exactly.
And I have gotten to a point of gratitude even, I'm grateful for the way that it happened, because this isn't about me and my comfort. This is about evolution and the oneness, and bringing us all together to realize that. So
yes, it's like you said, it's like the bigger picture. It's like when you're in the valley, you can't see the forest, you can't see the trees. When you're in it, you can't see the forest. But when you're above it, when you're above the valley, like looking down, you can see the big picture. So that's kind of what I'm trying to do, and what you're trying to do with the magazine and your show, is to inspire people to see that bigger picture. And yes, we're going to miss our loved ones that have transitioned. But when you know, and I know, not a belief, I know they're still with us. They're right here, and they're encouraging us to do the work we're here to do. So
yes.
yeah.
And you're right. What you say, I really resonate with, and why I'm so passionate now about this afterlife research and the evidence, because this isn't just things being flown around, there's evidence. Why it's really so important. And because when we really can understand, not a belief, I don't believe in the afterlife. I know that we're eternal souls, that our consciousness, it continues when we die.
Yeah.
I know this. I've experienced it firsthand in a variety of ways, in a variety of mediums, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Once you know that, you can really come here and live your life fully, which is the point.
Exactly.
So, we're all trying to figure out what's our purpose and how to best live life and how to live the most high vibrational life. Well, you should start looking at the evidence for the afterlife, because then it's like, oh, all right. So I am really supposed to, the people that I've lost, they really want me to be happy, and spirit wants me to be happy, and I'm here to chase my joy.
Yes, exactly. And that it's really a very simple formula. Follow your heart, what you're passionate about. Follow your bliss, your joy, whatever brings you joy. That's what you're supposed to be doing. And so many people get in their head and say, but that's not going to make me money. But get out of your head. Just follow your joy, and it'll bring you success in the way you're supposed to have success. And success is not always being a billionaire. Success is doing. To me, it's more important to have joy in my heart than, because even the media, and I don't watch mainstream media anymore, but if you look in the media, you have these people with all this money, all this fame. Are they happy?
They're not happy.
It's always, and there's so much proof. There's so much proof that money can't buy happiness, and there's so much proof of the afterlife. So to me, it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer, totally. And and often, like you just said, if you follow your joy, you will be rich.
Yes.
In your heart, in your joy. And a lot of times money does come, or at least what you need to live the life you're supposed to lead. Some people really are meant to have a ton of money and do big things. Some people are just like, hey, I just need to chill in my home and feel comfortable and secure. But the point is are we happy? And I have an ebook that I wrote called "This Is How You Be: A Simple Guide to True Happiness," and that came to. It sounds really fluffy, but it came to me from my grief, and it was things, because when you go through that kind of loss and grief, it kind of strips away all the things that don't matter.
Yes.
And that's what I found, and what a lot of people I've talked with that were in similar situations found. And so for me, it really stripped it down to that. Being authentic, and to me, being authentic is doing what makes you happy, and connecting to spirit in that way, because just.
I get what you're saying, and you know what? Some people will say that the a lot of people will say, well, if you're just focusing on your own happiness, you're being selfish, but that's not true. When you understand the oneness, when you understand that we're all connected, we're all cells that are connected, and each one of us, as we're happy, we're making the whole happy.
Right.
So,
well, and look at the two of us, just for example. What we do that brings us happiness, they happen to both be service-based.
Yes. Yes.
I mean,
yes.
So it's not, even though it's like I'm focusing on what makes me happy.
Yes.
My happiness reverberates out into the world, and also tends to be that what actually brings people joy is helping other people.
Exactly. It does. It does. Yes. Yes.
You know?
Yes.
So
it's very true. Yes.
It works out, and it's not a selfish act, and it's a really big myth.
Yes.
You can't help other people if you're not helping yourself first.
Exactly. Even artists, those people that love to draw and to paint or to dance, or their artistry is to share that art with the world. So by their painting or their dancing and their art is sharing, when they do it, they're sharing it with the world, which is making the rest of the world happy. So following your bliss is not a selfish act, because it does, like you say, when you follow your bliss, the happier you are, the more you want to share that happiness with everyone around you. And it resonates, because everything, that energy, that happiness energy spreads out, and it touches everybody, not just the people near you. It touches the whole world, because that's how we're connected. So,
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's like if someone sees you and says, oh man, Carolyn's so happy, or Arizona's so happy. What are they doing?
Yes.
You know? And it's this domino effect of inspiration. And so I find it is the best thing that you can do to really help the world.
It is. It's so true.
And
it's really, and it's that I like to always say on my show, I like to keep it simple. I love quantum physics. It was quantum physics that woke me up to the truth of oneness. I was studying spirituality off and on for many years, and there was a missing piece. I'm like, oh, this sounds so good, but I'm not getting it. I watched What the Bleep, a documentary film on quantum physics, and that when science proves the interconnectedness, that everything is one, I got it. And I'm like, that's simple. We're all one, you know, and to me, that's all it needed, all I needed to understand everything in a simplistic form. Like, I can't do a quantum physics equation, but I had many scientists on this show, which I love, like Bruce Lipton and Dean Radin, and just, you know, scientists that have proven the connectivity, quantum physics, which talks about quantum entanglement in the unified field theory, which I had one scientist say, if a person doesn't believe in oneness, we should take away their cell phone. Because all today's technology, cell phones, computers, everything is based on quantum physics. It's based on the fact that everything is interconnected and interdependent. We couldn't have cell phones, smartphones, laptops, you know, smart TVs. We couldn't have that technology without quantum physics, which is all based on oneness. So,
right.
So what gets me is, why isn't it mainstream? Why doesn't the mainstream population know this? Because it's yeah.
That is a great question.
Yeah.
And you know, I was just having a conversation today, and I'm feeling the call more and more to help this stuff become more mainstream. And you know, that was the original goal with Spirit Guides magazine, was to kind of make it accessible. Like I talked about with millennials and younger generations, so we're already talking more accessible because they need things in bite-sized information and memes and stuff like that. But bringing the depth into that and kind of sneaking in, you know, and that's kind of what I try to do with my podcast too. We'll talk about more than the afterlife, more than the things that I'm interested in. I really think that stuff is the most important stuff in the world to talk about.
Yes.
But we'll talk about life. We'll talk about soul purpose. We'll talk about, you know, tarot cards, and we'll talk about astrology. We'll talk about all these things.
Yes.
But there I am trying to sneak in the afterlife stuff and the deeper stuff. And my point being that I want to see this stuff go mainstream too. And and I think it's only a matter of time and a matter of just messaging it right.
Yes. Yes. And I agree with you. I think we definitely are we're getting there as far as mainstream, because if anybody that's on the internet, you can see how this is really, and I like that we do use the term afterlife, but I think of it as eternal life, because in truth, there's no afterlife, because there's just eternal. It's just life.
Right, just life. It's just it's like a graduation.
Exactly. It's
like going from high school to college.
Exactly.
Whatever.
Exactly. And actually, you know what I think of it? I think, how many cars have you had in your lifetime? I can't even remember how many. I'm on my 10th car maybe. But our physical body, I think of it as like a car. We use our physical body to get around in this reality. And then when we're ready to change bodies, not saying that we go from one body to another body right away. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying that, our body, mainstream identifies with the physical too much. But in truth, the physical is spiritual. There's no separation. The only difference is what's denser. Okay, I'll never forget, and I quote this all the time. In 7th grade, when I was studying when I was studying molecules and atoms, my science teacher said, there's nothing truly physical. Nothing truly solid. That was his words. Nothing is truly solid. You take anything, this desk, and you put it under a high-powered microscope, you see tiny particles that are moving. So that tells you there's life within this desk, because the particles are not stagnant, they're moving, and those particles are not even touching. So in truth, you should be able to put your hand through that desk, because the particles are not connected. It's really just a field of energy. And that's what everything is. So even though it appears, because our senses are so limited, it appears to be solid. So this what we call physical world is really spiritual. It's just dense. It's very dense spirituality. It's just very dense. So there's different densities. So when we leave our bodies, we become lighter. We become less dense.
Yeah. And I think all we're trying to do right now is try to become a little less dense in this body.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
And that's good work. If you're on that path, that's good work.
Yes.
But you're absolutely right. It's not bad to be human. I feel like in some of the spiritual kind of worlds I've been in before, it's like, oh, this is an illusion, and just go meditate on the mountaintop. It's like, hey, well, we're humans for a reason right now.
Yes. Yeah, we are. We're here for a reason. Exactly. And for me, I try to put back the physical back to the spiritual, saying it is still one thing. The physical comes from the spiritual. It manifests. We're spiritual beings manifesting this reality, and it is an illusion. The only thing real about this experience is our experience of it. So it's important. So it is important. It's important, but it appears to be solid, and it's not. So it is, and it's a dream of our own creation. I think that's an important point too, for people to understand, that nobody's doing it to you. Nobody's a victim. We are creating our own reality, and from a higher purpose, meaning our higher self, our higher soul knows exactly why we came, knows all of our lives, times, and knows, okay, you came here for a reason. Have you ever heard of soul planning?
I have. Yes, okay. I have. I've had a conversation with Robert Schwartz on my radio, so I'm pretty familiar with that whole concept. Yeah.
Okay. Well, Robert Schwartz, let me tell you, we're like sisters here. No, you're my daughter, because you're too young to be my sister. But I was reading when Kyle was in 2014. Now, when he did transition, the last month of his life, again, on life support, I Googled, I stayed in his ICU room, and I was Googling your soul's plan. I found Robert Schwartz.
You just typed in your soul's plan? Wow.
In Google, and I found Robert Schwartz. Exactly. Cool. And I emailed him, and he emailed me right back, and I told him I'm in the hospital with my son on life support. It doesn't look good. That was like a few weeks before my son transitioned. And we were communicating back and forth by email. And I was reading Your Soul's Plan and Your Soul's Gift the last month of my son's life. So the first guest that I had on my podcast, March 13th, 2015, was Robert Schwartz.
Wow. Yes. That is awesome. Yeah, he was one of my first too. So, and what comfort his books brought to me and to so many people going through really tough times, because it's kind of true. Like, I think on my show and probably on yours, but he said, like, it's kind of like so many people, their automatic default is why me, why me, why me? And it's like, if you look around, everyone's suffering. It's kind of the human condition, right?
Yes.
Buddha, thank you. So it's like everyone's suffering. So it's like, why not me? And that happens to be how we best learn, through challenge. I think that we can get to a point where we don't have to like wait for rock bottom to really see things. And I think spreading information like this will help.
Yes.
But we do learn through challenges. We learn through pain. So if you're here as a spiritual purpose, and you're not just here to, go watch football and do whatever, not to say you can't, but like, that's not why you're here.
Right.
You're here to learn and evolve on your soul level. Well, what's going to do that? And I really feel like, people that just like get hit with so much stuff back to back to back to back to back. And it's like, dang, you were really aggressive. You wanted to learn a lot.
Yes, this is so true. And I actually say, I believe that we plan each challenge. And honestly, from the human perspective and the soul's perspective is so totally opposite. Okay, from the soul perspective, our challenges are our greatest blessings. Mm-hmm. What we think is the worst thing in the world is actually our greatest blessing from the soul perspective. From the human, so it's because we planned it that way. So I knew when Kyle transitioned that we planned that together. We planned for him to go before me. It was his time. No soul leaves. There's no such thing as an accident. There's no such thing as a soul leaving before its time. And I know that's hard, especially hard for a parent, because you have babies that leave. You have toddlers, little young children that leave, and you think it's too soon, but in truth it was their soul's plan, and you actually planned it with them, because nothing can happen. Another thing I love about Robert's book is nothing can happen to us that we didn't agree to as a soul. Like your mom couldn't have left if you and her didn't agree to that. Kyle couldn't have left if we did. Everything happens by our soul planning and it's not a straight line. Humans, we think of everything as linear. No. Our soul plan is like a spider web. It's not a straight line. But everything happens even you and I were supposed to record this show a couple of days ago. My internet, I had to get high-speed internet. So you're the first recording that I'm doing with high-speed internet, which is great. And then something happened before where you could, but this is perfect. When we actually are recording the show, it's perfect divine timing. And for who's ever listening to this show, you're going to be listening to it in perfect divine timing for them.
Yep. And that's when you adopt that mentality,
yes,
it's like, there's so much less pressure. Like, this is going to happen when it's supposed to happen. I just had a really big thing fall through in my personal life that I was expecting to go through. It was already contracts being ready to sign, fell through, kind of put me in a bad position temporarily in my human head. Yes. But I'm like, you know what? This is going to work out better than I ever thought it possibly could. And just taking that mindset in is like such a stress reliever.
Yes.
And so I really swear by it. And it usually is true. It does work out the best way. Well, it always is true. That's why it's divine timing. So, you know, I with that whole moment, just going back to that moment of surrender, I've carried that forward with me every day to the extent that I can. It's really hard as a human because we're all control freaks in one way or another, but I'm really like, the more you surrender, the more you trust, the more it gives you. And I swear by it. It is my secret. Like, it's how I run my business. It's how I run my life. It's how I run my relationships, and divine timing and surrender.
Yes. And also for me, another favorite book of mine is The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle. Now, the funny thing, remember I told you that it was when I understood the truth of oneness through quantum physics, which made me understand everything. When I first bought the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, which when it first came out, which was early 2000s, I tried to read it. I read the first chapter and put it down. I could not understand it. Once I understood oneness, I picked that book back up and I couldn't put it down. It's like, and I understood everything. But with The Power of Now, I understand that it's even you're awake, I'm awake. But we can have a moment where it's like, oh God, you know, it's like, but then if we take a deep breath and realize now is our point of power. Okay, even if we messed up a moment ago, we can fix that because now is our point of power. When now? When do we want it? Now. Yeah. Now. But,
you always
and it's always now. So we can always, we don't have to think about, oh, I screwed up yesterday or I screwed up last week. We don't have to think about that because now is our point of power. Now is the time we can change everything right now. And the truth, it's very hard because we think linear, but Einstein's famous quote, time is merely an illusion, albeit a very persistent one.
Yeah,
All
I love that.
is now. In truth, there is no past and there is no future. And this now moment actually ripples out and actually changes the past and the future. And I know from a human perspective, someone's saying, okay, she's crazy. But it's all only now. We're living all of our lives right now. I don't say reincarnation anymore. I say simultaneous lives. Every life we've ever lived, we're living right now. It's just where we're focused, right?
That's a conversation I've been having lately, and I have a lot of people asking me about, because with reincarnation, and I've talked to some physical mediums that are like,
yes,
no. And it's been something that I haven't had a solid opinion on, but I've been leaning towards that as well. It's like, yeah, it's like, exactly. Like you can kind of atone right now in this moment and it will go to all of the things that are happening simultaneously.
Exactly.
So I appreciate that perspective because it's one that I've been drawn to lately.
Exactly. Like, that's why I say your power, even though I believe and I share on this show what I believe. And I always tell people, search your heart and live your life from your belief, not me. I'm just following what I believe. But I believe that we're living all of our lives simultaneously. There's only the now, but right now, what I do ripples out, and then affects every other life that I'm living. So if I'm happy now, in every other life that I'm living, I'm going to be a little bit more joyous in that moment. So we have the power. So a lot of people feel like, I got to figure out who I was in a past life and all that. No, you don't have to. I mean, if you want to, go ahead. But you don't have to knock yourself out and figure out all your past lives and all that. No, now is your point of power, and you can heal anything, past, future, right here and now.
I totally bow down to you. I agree completely. It's so true too. Yeah, it's kind of like that. Well, with past lives and also with past trauma, we have to clear that out. Like in this lifetime, we have to clear out our trauma, but we don't have to sit and analyze it for 45 years. We don't have to do that. And the days of thinking that that's how we heal are over, because we are in this quantum field, and we are in this space where it's it's limitless. We can heal right now. We can stop that.
Exactly.
We can let that go. So I really appreciate that now being the point of power. And the more that you can align with that moment, every single moment.
Yes.
I mean, I'm talking like even with the boring stuff, like when you're doing dishes, just do dishes.
Yes. And to me, it's just, I like right now it's snowing, but it's interesting. The snow is kind of like floating. So I've been watching that. I have this big picture window in my office where I see it's woods across the street, and I just see, and I'm looking at that, and I'm just saying, wow, that's very interesting. So I know somebody might think that's really boring. What is she doing? She's watching the snow float. Okay.
And then probably that's the moment when the divine idea is going to come to you. And it's
exactly
kind of in that space of idleness and kind of going with the moment and the flow that so many of these things come in. If we're just planning our to-do list all the time and we're thinking about the past or the future, which is where we are if we're not in the present, then hello, we're not going to get it.
You got it. So many times we are either thinking of the past, or we're dreaming of the future, or planning for the future. Very rarely, when we think of it, are we present. Now, when I'm watching the snow and just saying, oh wow, how amazing! It's floating. It's not dropping. I'm in the now. And that's where the magic happens, is in the now. And so the more we are grounded in the now, actually, you were talking about age. It's actually scientifically proven. The more you stay focused in the now, you actually age slower. Scientifically proven.
Well, if you're a testament to that, I believe it. So sign me up. I'm going to meditate all day long and just be in the moment.
But
I want eternal youth like everybody else.
Wait a second, especially speaking to your generation, which is my children's generation. It's not about meditate. Life can be a meditation. Everything you can, if you stay focused in the now and really focus on what you're doing in the now moment, that's a meditation.
Doing the dishes.
Like you said, like doing the dishes, or even you're right. Now, when you're a writer. I was told by my 10th grade honors English teacher that I have a gift for writing. And I am working on my first book. So you're a writer, I'm a writer. When we're writing, whenever you're doing, we're doing this show, we're in the now, we're doing what we love. When you're doing something you love, you're really in the zone, in the now. And the more you're in that, and that's a meditation. That's a moving, active meditation. And so, because I really want to connect to mainstream and your generation, because your generation is coming up. And for us to identify that, okay, our spiritual life does not have to be separate from every moment of our day. It's really,
every moment is an opportunity for meditation. I think we set aside meditation so that we can practice being quiet with ourselves, right? But every moment. And you'll probably agree with this, like us talking right now.
Yes.
And you'll appreciate this as a podcast host.
Yes.
Listening, like truly listening, not like, oh, I heard one thing they said and now I'm going to think about my response, but truly listening to every word. That is a meditation. That's being in the moment. That's being in the now. So if I'm sitting here, I'm not on my phone, I'm not all preoccupied with all this other stuff. And I find that's why I love doing podcasts so much. It's really meditating with other people.
Yes, so true. And you hit the nail on the head. To be a host of a podcast, you have to have that skill of listening, really listening. And I don't find everybody that I interact with, not my guests, obviously, but I'm talking about in life in general, the people I interact with, when I try to share my message of oneness in the grocery store, you can tell when a person is really listening and when they're not, and not everybody really listens. Like you say, instead of listening, they're getting their response ready in their head. And if they're getting their response ready in their head, they're not listening.
Right. Because you can only do one thing in the moment.
Exactly. You're right. You cannot talk and listen at the same. I teach piano lessons, and I say this to my kids all the time, my students all the time. They're talking, and I'm trying to teach them something. I'm talking, and it's like, no, that's not going to work. You cannot hear what I'm saying if you're talking.
It's impossible.
Yes, it is.
And if everybody treated their romantic relationships like a podcast host and guest, we would be in such a better world, because that's what it takes. It really does take that kind of deep listening.
Yes, that deep listening skill. And then the other thing I also talk about a lot on this show is because when I said the people that I normally get that don't listen, they have this, like, I'm personally of no religion. I claim to be of no religion because I believe that we're all one. So it doesn't matter what Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, it doesn't matter what your religion is. We're still one, okay? But then there are people that are coming from a more dogmatic set conditioning, I would say, and then they're thinking about their conditioned response to what I'm saying. So I say that to say that it doesn't matter. Unity within diversity, meaning a person can share their beliefs with me and I can share my beliefs with them. We don't have to agree on anything to love and respect one another. And that's what unity and that's the key to world peace. Meaning, people don't have to have the same religion or the same beliefs. They're not going to, because we're supposed to be different.
Right, we didn't come here to all be the same.
Yeah, we're unique aspects of the divine. We're unique aspects of God. We're all unique aspects of God. Like Rumi says, you're not a drop in the ocean. You are the ocean in a drop. We are all cells of God. We have all of God in each of us, and we're uniquely different, and we're supposed to be. No two are the same. So that's how, when we understand that we're supposed to be uniquely different and have different beliefs, but still love and respect one another, that's when world peace is gonna. And I believe we can actually have world peace in my lifetime, which is surely gonna be in your lifetime. I believe it. I do.
I'm hoping. I'm very hopeful. And I think that, just if people hear you say that, and then they look at the newspaper, that's a hard pill to swallow. But sometimes this level of disruption happens right before a breakthrough. So yes, I'm hopeful.
And that's why I stopped looking at the news. I stopped watching mainstream news in 2001. Two weeks after 9/11, Spirit, and it was, again, I was not awake to oneness or any of that at that time in 2001. Spirit said to me internally, felt a calling from inside my heart where Spirit said, turn off the news and don't ever turn it back on. And I didn't know why at the time, literally, seriously, because I even said, I don't get it, but I'm going to be obedient. And I turned off the news and never watched mainstream news since. Mm-hmm. And I got rid of mainstream, commercial television in 2011. So I stopped watching news in 2001, stopped watching mainstream television. But I watched my television shows on Netflix and Hulu Plus. Just not.
Me too. Yeah, for sure.
I live more on YouTube than anything.
Yeah, that's where all the magic happens. Yeah. But I agree with you completely. It's really important to be just like you would be aware of the food you put in your body. I feel like there's so much toxic messaging out there, and I also kind of have that same diet. So
yeah, and I truly believe it. Mainstream news, their mission is to lower our vibration, to keep us in a state of fear.
100%.
Yes, and so
people should watch shows like this, listen to things like this, and then we'll all vibrate higher. Yes. Very true. So true. Oh my goodness. Well, please. Now you've mentioned that you're going to be doing some upcoming speaking engagements. Please share with our listeners any upcoming events with you and the magazine and your podcast. Share with our listeners how they can find you and follow you, all of that good stuff. Sure. Well, I'll start with, I don't know when this is going to air exactly, but it doesn't matter that much. This Sunday, I am launching a bi-weekly, so it'll be every other week, virtual salon, aka discussion group on all things death, grief, afterlife. And it's free, and it's via Zoom, and like I said, it'll be every other Sunday, and it'll be led by various different people, and it's the intention behind it is not to be like experts preaching, just casual conversations on specific topics about the darker side of things that we don't always talk about because they've been kept taboo. Well, I want to shed light on them, and I want people to come together and let's get on Zoom and talk about, hey, how can we actually help grievers? Not just say, let me know if you need anything. And what does the afterlife look like? What does it feel like? And all of these things. And so that's called Ghosted, and it'll be every other week, and I'm launching on January 13th. So you can go to spiritguidesmagazine.com/happenings, and there's a link to sign up for that list, and you'll get the Zoom link every other week. So that's something that's new for the new year, and I'm excited about.
Sounds great.
And there's, let's see, We Don't Die Orlando with Sandra Champlain.
Yes.
I am in talk.
Wait. Before you say there's We Don't Die Boston, which I will be at.
Yes, I know. I'm in Spain, so I can only make it to one. I will be at the Orlando one, and I'm talking with Sandra about speaking there, so that's cool. And then I will be at Soul Summit Scottsdale, which is in Scottsdale, Arizona, in September, with Suzanne Wilson.
I'll be there too.
The whole gang. Cool. Yeah, you will. And I will be doing a presentation there, and yeah, so that's what I have going on. And then as far as speaking and events like that, and then we have Spirit Guides Radio is the podcast. You can everything's on Spirit Magazine or spiritguidesmagazine.com. But you can reach the radio show there. But if you go into iTunes and search Spirit Guides Radio, we air weekly on Wednesdays, and we have a variety of guests from Afterlife to Life. So it's cool. that's what I've got going on. Yeah.
Awesome. Now, it was very interesting. You were saying about the dark side, which I love to shed light on the dark side. Okay. When you think of the yin and yang symbol, right? The dark part of the yin and yang symbol is equal to the light part, correct? So in truth, again, it's one. In truth, everything is neutral. Basically, everything we experience, it may not seem, again, from the human perspective, it doesn't seem neutral. That seems bad, but we label it bad. We label things good. We label things evil. But those are our labels. In truth, it's still one. It's still part of that oneness. God is all, from my definition of God is all that is. There is nothing outside of God. So what we label dark side, it's still part of God. Mm-hmm. So, it's just that we live in a world of duality, and we couldn't see the other side of it. It's the same. It's the same coin, just the flip side. And we wouldn't be able to see it if there wasn't that polarity, if there wasn't that contrast. So imagine a white polar bear, that even his nose was white, in a snowstorm. You couldn't see him because It's all white. So we need contrast to see. So, so that dark side is just the contrast to see.
Well, and it's just exactly, and it's just like expansion and contraction.
Exactly.
Let's even look at what we are. We're breath. We expand and we contract. Light and dark. I mean, I agree with you 100%. And the polar bear in the snowstorm is a great visual. I'm going to use that from now on. But yeah, I think especially in the spiritual world, that I've noticed is there's a lot of I call it love and light washing, right? So it's love and light, love and light, love and light. Well, there's dark too. Yes. And there's shadowy aspects that there's pain, there's trauma, there's grief. And I just want to do my part to bring that to the light.
Right. And I agree with you. The point I was making, I want people to understand that there's a purpose and a reason for what we label the dark side. And
Right.
it's not separate from the one.
No.
It's still
all one.
Yes.
It's all one. Awake to oneness, baby.
Yes. Well, thank you so much. This has been amazing. So I know I'll get to see you in September. I'm not sure about Orlando. What are the dates for Orlando?
Whoa. Oh, well, I actually do know this because check it out. It's March 29th. I think it's for a couple days. I can't remember when it ends, but March 29th is my mom's passing transition anniversary. And that is the day that the conference that I was invited to starts. So I took that as a sign. Yeah. So March 29th is Orlando. Yeah. And I'm really looking forward to it. And Scott Milligan and the whole crew will be there. So that'll be really fun.
Okay. So it's a month after the Boston one. The Boston one is February 22nd.
Okay.
So
yeah. Well, I'll cross my fingers I see you there, but if not, Soul Summit. And I just want to take a minute to say thank you so much for having me. I really, really appreciate it. And I'm glad that it was divine timing to work out today.
It's perfect. Always perfect divine timing. It's always perfect to have. I mean, it's great to have you. And it's always wonderful when I get to see you in person. I think you're so cool.
Thank you. Ditto, right back at you. And now after this chat, I am super excited to see you again. So I look forward.
Thank you so much. Okay, well, we will say bye for now, but we'll see each other soon.
Bye for now.
Okay, take care. Bye-bye.